The 10 Worst Presidents in American History. A panel of 142 presidential historians has ranked all 44 former U.S. presidents. The survey was done by C-SPAN. The presidents were rated on 10 qualities of presidential leadership. Here are the bottom 10. 10. Zachary Taylor. Taylor spent only 16 months in office. A veteran of the Mexican-American War, he was no politician. Taylor was a slaveholder who opposed the extension of slavery into new states. Some blame him for his opposition to the Compromise of 1850. Taylor never resolved the slavery issue, precipitating the Civil War. 9. Herbert Hoover. Hoover was elected right before the Great Depression. He steadfastly refused to provide any relief for the poor. Hoover's new Tariff Act fueled international trade wars. This made the Depression even worse. Shanty towns that sprang up during his presidency were called Hoovervilles. 8. Warren G. Harding.
I am not fit for this office and should never have been here.
Harding once said he spent most of his time playing golf and poker. Harding was also an insatiable womanizer. Meanwhile, his cronies plundered the U.S. Treasury. His Secretary of the Interior allowed oil businesses to tap into government oil reserves. 7. Millard Fillmore. Fillmore succeeded Zachary Taylor, who died in office. Unlike Taylor, Fillmore supported the Compromise of 1850. This may have helped postpone the Civil War, but it came at a price. The compromise included the notorious fugitive slave law. It compelled the federal government to return escaped slaves to their owners. 6. John Tyler. Tyler was the first vice president to succeed a president. He assumed office after William Harrison died of pneumonia. John Tyler was a staunch defender of slavery. He also believed slave states had a right to secede. He vetoed his own party's bill to create a national bank. Tyler later sided with the Confederacy during the Civil War. 5. William Henry Harrison. At 31 days, Harrison had the shortest presidency in U.S. history. Harrison ran on a platform that had no agenda whatsoever. His campaign portrayed him as a hard-drinking man of the people. In fact, he grew up on a wealthy estate in Virginia. Harrison's inaugural address was the longest ever, but he got sick and died a month into his first and only term. 4. Donald J. Trump. Trump is the only living president to make the bottom 10. He is also the only president to have been impeached twice. His administration's handling of the COVID-19 crisis was seen as disastrous. Trump's international relations were also much criticized. He scored highest on public persuasion and economic management. 3. Franklin Pierce. Pierce was a fervent believer in national expansion. He wanted to add more states to the Union, even if they were slave states. He also proposed annexing Cuba, although that plan fell through. Pierce supported William Walker, a pro-slavery American, who installed himself as president of Nicaragua. Theodore Roosevelt once called Pierce a servile tool of men worse than himself. 2. Andrew Johnson. Johnson is best remembered for his opposition to the Reconstruction. He only became president after Lincoln's assassination. Johnson was lenient toward former slaveholders. At the same time, he was indifferent to the plight of former slaves. A staunch opponent of black suffrage and civil rights, he was impeached in 1868. 1. James Buchanan. Buchanan was the president most directly responsible for the Civil War. Personally, he opposed slavery, but he believed it was constitutional. As a result, Buchanan supported the Supreme Court's Dred Scott decision in 1857. It declared that slaves were not citizens. After Lincoln's victory in 1860, most Southern states seceded. Buchanan stood by and did nothing, just waiting for his term to end.